Okay, here is a maths challenge question posted by Bernie Westacott on Twitter. He said it was a Singapore primary 6 maths question set for a maths competition. I believe that Singapore primary 6 is equivalent to a UK year 7. So that would be the first year of secondary school. Now, I did it today with an able year 6 pupil, and he was able to figure most of it out. I had to give him a couple of nudges, but really he got most of the way there by himself, and I didn't have to teach him any new maths. We have done some bar modeling before, but not masses of it. And as I said, he was able to do the bulk of it himself. And I think that if I gave him something similar, next time he would be able to do it on his own. Right. So, let's have a look at the question. When Don was twice as old as Kim, Lin was 20 years old. When the ratio of Lin's age to Don's age was 5:3, Kim was 10 years old. If Lin is the oldest among them, find Kim's age when Lin is 55 years old. Okay. So let's see how we tackled this. So I'm just going to draw as he drew, and really, which is how I would have drawn them as well. So, and we started over here. When Don was twice as old as Kim, Lin was 20. So we've got Don and we've got Kim, and we're going to draw, this is going to represent however old Kim is. And if Kim is got that, if that's how old Kim is, then Don is twice that. Okay, so that represents that. And then we thought about how to represent this. So when my pupil looked at it, he thought, oh, I don't know how to represent that. Now, in other problems, I might, if I had a value that didn't sort of fit in, because these are equal parts, aren't they? This is one part, this is that same value, okay? But we don't know how this fits in, what size that is. Well, actually, we do know something about the size of it. We'll get to that later. But what we decided to do, rather than just draw a bar where although we knew it was going to be bigger than this, we didn't know how much bigger. And this is what we decided to do. So write Lin equals 20. Okay. We could have done, as I said, we could have done this, just drawn a bar like that and said that was 20. That also is fine. Okay. But just drawing it like this sort of, I think, just helped to show when this snapshot was taken, as it were. But it doesn't matter. You could have done that as well. As long as you know that this bar, we don't know how this relates in size here. Or we don't know at all, other than the fact that this must be bigger than this. And we'll look at why in a moment. Okay, so that's what we've got. We can also, so have we captured all of that information? Don was twice as old as Kim, Lin was 20. Yes, we've got that. Right, second bit here. When the ratio of Lin's age to Don's age was 5:3, Kim was 10. Okay, and again, my pupil was able to do this. So we've got Lin, we've got Don, and we're going to give Lin 5 parts. Okay, and these are that's supposed to be equal parts, all right. And it doesn't matter that they're not perfect, because I, the drawer, the one using the model, knows what they are, what they represent. And if that's 5, well, Don has got 3 of those parts. Fantastic. And have we got all of the information? Well, not quite. In this one, Kim was 10. And again, what we did is we just wrote this. Okay, so Kim equals 10. All right, because again, I just don't know how to draw that as a bar, and it isn't necessarily all that helpful. In fact, what I'll do, just to keep things consistent with how we did them, there we go. Right, okay, so those are my 2 sort of snapshots. And the other thing, have we captured all of the information? Actually, there's another important bit of information here, isn't there? Lin is the oldest. Now, I've been around long enough to know that even if you underline it in the question, it's really easy to forget about it because it's over up here in the question and here are my models. So I suggested, brackets insisted, that we pull this information down to make sure that we were considering it when we were looking at our models. So what do we know? We know that Lin is the oldest. Okay. All right. And that is always going to be the case. And right, so the first thing that my pupil did was have a look at this bit. And when he looked at this, he thought, right, okay, well, and he was very excited, raring to go. Don is twice as old as Kim. That must mean that Don is always twice as old as Kim, because he was obviously hoping to figure out something from here. And that's the point at which I stopped him. Now, I know that he has a friend that's 1 year younger than him. And I said, right, well, when your friend was 1 year old and you were 1 year older than him, when you were 2, your friend was 1 and you were twice as old as your friend, weren't you? Yes, absolutely. Are you still twice as old as your friend? No. Oh, what's happened? And then he had his little light bulb moment. It's the difference in age that remains constant. Okay, it's the difference that stays the same. All right, and just because at one point you are 3 times as old as someone or half as old as someone else, that's just at one point in time, at one age. Okay, having established that, then, and I mean, I don't think we'd done any age questions before. Usually, I mean, that might be something that just occurs to them when they do a question like this. He would have got there eventually. It was just in his excitement to try and make sense of this in the hope that he could use this bit of information over here. He would have figured that out. He definitely knows it from now. Right. Okay. What can we figure out? So we started here. What do we know? Well, we know that Don is twice as old as Kim. We know that Lin here is 20, and we also know that Lin is the oldest. The other thing that I said is that we were going to assume that everyone's age was a whole number, that nobody was sort of 7 3/4 or anything like that. So that we were dealing only with whole numbers. Right, if that's the case, let's have a look. Well, we know that this is Kim's age. How old could Kim be? And what we figured out is that Kim could be anything between 1 and 9 years old. Because if Kim was 10, if this is 10, this would be 10 and this would be 10. And if that was true, that would make Don 20, which would be the same age as Lin. And he can't be the same age as Lin because Lin is the oldest. So we knew then from that Kim could not be as old as 10 at this point, that she had to be between 1 and 9. And if this is between 1 and 9, this is also between 1 and 9, and this is also between 1 and 9. Okay, now that could help us figure out that Don must be in this snapshot between 2 and 18. Okay, but the important thing to realize is that if this is between 1 and 9, that's the same as this space here, which is the difference between Kim's age and Don's age. So the difference between Kim and Don's age is between 1 and 9. Okay. So I think that's all of the information that we could glean from that at the moment. So we then went over to here. What can we figure out from here? Well, immediately we can see, because we know that we've drawn this 5 to 3 relationship, we know that whatever this value is, it's the same value here. So what that tells us is that in this snapshot, Lin's age is a multiple of 5, and that Don's age is a multiple of 3. That's what the model shows us. Okay, what else can we figure out? Well, what did we get from here? We got the fact that Kim is between 1 and 9 years older than Don. Here we have Don. We know that Kim here is 10 years old. So we know that this is after, don't we? So we know also then that Don in this scenario is between, okay, so how old is he? He is between 11 and 19 years old. All right, because he has to be, we know that he's between 1 and 9 years older than Kim. All right. And we know that his age is a multiple of 3. So that gives us, what possibilities does that give us? Well, we could, depending on your pupils, you could decide to write these out. We've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Okay. And which are the multiples of 3? Well, that leaves us with those. Okay. So this is 4 times 3, 5 times 3, and 6 times 3. Okay. So that means that if this was true, if Don was 12 years old, that each of these would have a value of 4. Okay. Now, there's another way around to do this. I'm just showing you one thread we went along. So if each of these has a value of 4, then these each have a value of 4. That would make Lin's age 5 times 4. Now that is a multiple of 5, obviously, because we've just multiplied 5 by 4. That would be 20. Can Lin be 20 here? No, he can't, because Lin was 20 here. And we know that this is later on. This is not the same year. So we know that it can't be this. Could it be this? Yes, that would work out, wouldn't it? Because we would have 5, 10, 15. That works with that. That would give us 25. Okay. That seems to work. Okay. Let's have a look. Could it be this? Each of these would have a value of 6. So obviously Don would be 18. That would mean that Lin was 30 here. Can Lin be 30? Right. Well, in trying to figure out what told us that which of these might be true is realizing that if Kim is 10 here, okay, I mean, we realized that this was later than this scenario, but how much later? Well, Kim is between 1 and 9 here. That means that if she's 10 here, that this is between 1 and 9 years later. Okay? And if this is between 1 and 9 years later and Lin is 20 here, then here Lin must be between 21 and 29, which of course eliminates that and tells us that it's this, that each of these has a value of 5. But also, because we know that Lin's age is a multiple of 5, then the only possibility here between 21 and 29 is 25. Okay, so we know for sure, all right, that each of these has a value of 5, and that gives us Lin's age as being 25. Okay, have we got all of the information? And of course, sorry, Don is 15. But what question are we being asked? We're asked to find Kim's age when Lin is 55 years old. So we need to know the difference between Lin and Kim. So if Lin is, Lin is 25, Kim is 10. So the difference between their ages is 15. As we already established earlier, this remains constant. So when Lin is 55, if we take away the difference, which is 15, we end up with 40. And that is our final answer, that Kim is 40 when Lin is 55.